nation states are increasingly resembling larger corporations. Is it a trend to stay, or do you think even globalization will have its necessary backlash and a historical meltdown? Is WikiLeaks a sufficient clue to a radically changed future?
I think many complicated things happening in the world, and I don't think that's true of all nation states. So, for example, rather dramatically in Latin America, there has been in the past 10 years or so significant moves towards integration, towards independence, towards bringing the mass of the population into the political process, to dealing with severe internal problems, not unlike India's, of enormous poverty and misery and islands of wealth. That's in the opposite direction. If you take the rich developed, Asian countries are going their own ways. Take a country like the United States, and England, and much of Europe. What you describe, what's happening could be described that way. I'd put it a little differently. I mean, what's actually been happening in much of the world, and this incidentally includes China and India too, is a global shift of power away from working people and into the hands of owners, managers, investors, elite elements, highly paid professionals, and so on. A very sharp class split. So you see it everywhere. So in the United States, is the highest inequality since the 1920s, and if we look closely, it's the highest ever, because the inequality largely results from the super enrichment of a tiny sector of the population, a fraction of 1% of managers, owners, hedge fund managers, and so on. And this concentration of economic power in the sector of the corporate system, increasingly the financial sector, carries with it political power. Concentrated economic power has an overwhelming effect on the political process. And in fact, state corporate policies for the past 30 years, running from fiscal policies like taxation to government rules on corporate governance and so on, have been designed in order to create this kind of system of sharply class-divided oppression. And it's real, and there's plenty of discontent and anger. Whether it's not like the third world, but if people in a rich country have seen their incomes stagnate for 30 years while there's enormous wealth, they don't like it. Life's not miserable, but it's difficult. Unemployment for much of the population is the level of the Great Depression, with no prospect of anything changing. This kind of, it's extreme in the United States, but it's similar in England and to some extent elsewhere. This kind of, and in places like China, let's say, you also have extreme disparity of wealth, some of the worst inequality in the world. India is, of course, almost in a class by itself. But so these developments are taking place.